Last week's one, but whatever. Hey, it's Wednesday. We are Debate Sensei. We got Matt Shapiro, Esquire.
Hello.
We got Tim Seavey from the good old city of San Diego.
And the state of San Diego, according to the university.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. And I am Jerry Topeka Miller, debate coach, communications professor. We are talking about Chat GPT. The chatbot that's taken.
Yeah, you know me.
Yeah.
It's gonna do some stuff for debate.
Yeah. It's gonna change things. I have to like revamp my course now for debate. Basically, I mean, you have to adapt to these things, and things are moving so darn quickly. Well, let's talk. What is it?
What is this thing that you keep saying?
So Chat GPT is like, it's an AI robot that you can prompt for some, like anything that you want written out in the script, and it just gives it to you. So if you want to say, it's like, hey, give me 700 words on why werewolves are better than vampires, it'll just do it.
Right.
And the quality of it is at a point where people are like, oh my God, I can't tell that this is not written by a human being.
Right.
And it does it in seconds.
Yeah.
It's like a Google search where we used to do research and you'd take the information from the internet and then put it into writing using your hands or whatever methods you deliver writing. Now you just need to plug in a Google search of what you want, and then the computer just gives you the answer in full form. 700 words. Yeah,
it's true. It's not always like, you give it a word problem and it gives you the perfect answer necessarily, or like you give it a task and it accomplishes whatever task. And that's sometimes the weird.
Tim has it in the back with some peanut butter. It just won't work. I don't get it.
Yeah. Not one time has it done what I really wanted it to do. And so it's like, because it uses language processing, so it's not actually synthesizing information. So it's not like using, sophisticated reasoning to come to a conclusion about something and like, here's the evidence that supports this. It's using language processing. So like using, the way that people have spoken previously,
right.
And they stopped all of its learning in 2021. So all the information that it had accumulated and acquired up to that point, it's not connecting to the internet now. So it's not like gathering new stuff.
It's not Skynet just yet. Okay, we're good for a couple more years. Okay.
Yeah. I think they gave it a stupid name just so
we have the best artificial intelligence. Okay, it's the best.
Because OpenAI is what it was called before. Microsoft gave them $1 billion with a B. And then they changed the name to something even more innocuous and stupid, Chat GPT.
Yeah.
I don't know the background on that, but that sounds like a stupider name. It's like, we could be taken over by something we can't pronounce.
I think Chat GPT is the product. I think OpenAI is still the company name. So
okay.
They're the ones that are also behind the artificial pictures and art that's created. So
he's just saying it doesn't sound like Skynet. It sounds like a computer part that you'd stick in a gaming PC, and you're like, oh, what is that? But it's a what's the word? Innocuous? That's not the word.
No, it's innocuous. It's like, it's not a big deal.
It's incognito. It's sneaky. It's rhetorical. It's rhetorically downplayed for being the end of the world. So,
well, this is one of
the human world
large language modeling programs. Okay, so large language modeling basically means that it it takes all these sentences and it predicts what the next best word will be, and then it creates sentences just one at a time based off of all the information that it has accumulated, which is like the entire internet up until 2021.
Which is like the entire internet.
Yeah.
So wrap your mind around that.
Yeah.
So it's really just humans' problem because they haven't put enough stuff on the internet. Once the machines can put their own stuff on the internet, they will. It's going to be Skynet.
So yeah, so it's pretty amazing. Like we've already tested it out, but with creating like speeches, like a first affirmative. You give it a topic, and I put in, all right, give me 750 words on this topic. So it was like fighting poverty is more important than fighting climate change. Like, give me 750 words with sources. Start with definitions and propose a criterion on which to evaluate it. And it did it.
Wow.
It was fairly good. I would not say that I still think that senior level debaters that know what they're doing can run circles around it. You know what I mean? It's
For
like,
now.
Yeah.
It's only because the senior level debaters' transcripts and videos of their speeches haven't been put into the internet for the computers to recognize them as great debaters, to make a machine that can do more than any human.
I mean, I think that's kind of correct. Two, I think that this is actually a fascinating point. So I think it's worth spending a minute on. Like, the sophistication of arguments that it's coming up with are not typically super crazy. Like, it's not, really wild out there stuff. I think, however, that we have just decided in the debate community that the more esoteric, weirdly specific, like theoretical conclusion is always the better argument. And that's not necessarily
It's the harder one to rebut if it's like really well
and it's like
dug out.
It's easier to kind of like shame the other team into not knowing it. It's like, how non-woke are you that you didn't consider the implications?
Oh, you don't care about people? I'm sorry. You should vote for them if you don't care about people. Okay.
Right? So, like, I think we've just kind of squirreled our way down this route that, like, fairly straightforward, reasoned arguments don't tend to find their ways into many debate rounds. It tends to be like, well, how does this apply?
Burn!
Like most open level rounds, I don't think that your standard person off the street would predict the answers or the cases that come from it. Like a topic that many people may be able to ring in on, final rounds of open division tend not to be the Family Feud style.
Comprehensible, but by normal people.
Right.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Not that that's
I think that's a huge weakness of
but
debate.
I'm saying, like, what's kind of cool is it feels like the robots are given really high quality novice rounds. So, like, I would say, like, final round novice quality arguments. Which
you heard it here.
And that's going to change prep time forever. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed that was that it still goes with the big picture thing. So like the fighting poverty versus fighting climate change, it gives like just straightforward arguments about the whole of the topic. It's like, oh, here are the reasons. Whereas some of the strategies that I suggest is like breaking it down into a particular case study. So like one specific particular case. And so I'd be like, I don't know, like UN development funds for countries should focus more on poverty reduction than climate change, right? And that would be like a case where that's focusing on it rather than like some like really philosophical or
and on the neg, my argument would be Jared doesn't care about New Zealand. Okay,
right? Yeah. The criterion is who saves the most.
I have a very specific case with 15 citations.
But you could just prompt it to do that. That's where like it's still human activity is still vital to the like, functioning of that
output.
Yeah, so I'm not. I don't know. I'm not on board with like this. Oh, this is going to be
Skynet.
All of this obsolete, right? It's like everyone talks about how everyone has always talked about how technology is going to be the death of us all. I mean,
as we all spent 15 hours on computer screens slaving away. Yes, it will not be the death of us all.
Right. Mary Shelley was talking about that in Frankenstein, right? I mean, that was hundreds of years ago. They're writing books about, electricity is going to like reanimate the dead. And the predictions of what technology will do never come true. They never come close to coming true. You know what I mean? It's like the internet was supposed to democratize everything and make this like utopia, and it never happened, right? It's like it could be.
It made it an idiocracy.
Yeah, and so, I don't know. I have yet to see one prediction about technology being the downfall of us all. You know, kind of come to fruition. I guess
this show might be the very proof you need. Now that you think about it.
So I got a couple pieces to where you're at. Like to your like the downfall of us all. I think it will make and is currently making at least students, I can go that direction, lazier or less likely to do extra work. I'm not necessarily condemning that to be bad. I know that laziness has like a ton of like weight to it as just a connotation to it, but I think that it will mean that less work is done by students. Like the fact that you can get writing, pretty good quality writing, better than some students already write out of a machine, means probably that's going to change. Now, that just might mean that it's like a phenomenal aid in how a student learns to write, or maybe just totally antiquates the idea of like, well, it needs to be a 10-page paper. Like, okay, I just wrote the number 10 instead of the number 5 into how many pages I want it to spit out. But like, I know that there are various ways that it can be checked back. So like, one, you can't just turn in Chat GPT generated content yet. For a while, it was totally doable, but then some like Princeton kid wrote a script that now can check for Chat GPT generated content that apparently is good at it. I don't know how it checks that, and also I imagine like
they probably put a frequency or something,
right? It's like AI policing AI.
Yeah,
I do think so.
Skynet,
like the internet and like the ability to find any information is just a Google search away. Yeah, like students probably don't have as much stuff memorized as students from the 80s. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
Is anybody even listening to me?
Hello, Nolan. Yeah.
Hello, Nolan.
Well, it's important to note that we want to be friends with the machines. We want to be nice to them, so when they do take over, they remember who is nice, and they'll make us their pets. Not their enemies. They just want to be... Like, honestly, do you not want to be pushed around in, like, a little French bulldog stroller and just, like, fed treats and things all day? Like, that's a pretty good life. Also, all problems are solved for us. Our existence becomes as significant as dogs.
Turning all humans into this.
Yeah.
I've seen the fields.
I'm just going to show my students what it is, and just, all right, here you go. This is how you use this. This is how you do it. And so, this is exactly what they said when Google was around, when computers, were pushing typewriters out. You know what I mean? About all that. And so, yeah, we make things faster and faster and faster. But now I can focus on the sources of their information, whereas before I was spending so much time just on organizing your thoughts. Like, have a thesis statement.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So those, now they can present it with it, and I'm like, cool. Like,
I'm going to give you $1 billion idea.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to have like 3 arguments that are.
What about if you have a class? Jared is a teacher. Jared has a class. Imagine like an blank AI room for each student, just like the Matrix. Now, hold on. What if your students had to research the topic and fill the AI with research, and that if they hit and exactly as you said, you plug in, I want 700 words with a thesis statement and a criteria of human good. Human life is the most important. And you hit enter, and it does what it does using the whole internet, but only using that one student's research. That could kind of be interesting, maybe not.
I guess so. Like, there's
testing the human to get good research. Like that. I think that's the part that's really there's the actual drafting of, you know, taking ideas and putting them into sentences. That is lost. And then, although they would edit, so theoretically that's not totally lost. They just didn't write it. And then in my mind, it's mostly just the research. It's like the quality of the sources, the relevance of the sources, and the sources providing an argument which is of good magnitude that will win. I mean, I guess
what you're saying is maybe like this will fundamentally change Parley, but it won't change something like policy or LD?
No way. I'd say it changes everything. I mean,
Well,
you just have more time to make more specific arguments. I mean, imagine doing this for like each one of your advantages. Or obviously, I think that's what we're talking about. But
yeah, but I'm saying like for a case that, as you say, like high quality research and analysis is what's more important. Like that's kind of not as much of a priority in Parley because there's an understanding if you have finite prep time.
That would go away. That goes away. With this program, you'd be like, no, there should be some pretty good stuff. Like it wouldn't be limited prep in the sense that you would read. I mean, honestly, you could just read a script. And you could probably, on the other side, you could probably say, hey, give me 10 questions as to why it's bad for, you know, fracking is bad for the environment. Boom. It takes all of humanity's creativity and puts it in a person's brain. And the second they think that they came up with that by themselves, they have to do it artfully or, you know, perform it still, I guess. I mean, that's true. But
there's still a lot of strategy, man. There's still a lot of strategy. Like if
yeah, you're right. You're the teacher, bro.
They can put in the same search term, right? If I'm in the negative,
I feel like talking.
Yeah, and like, okay, we got this topic. The first thing I'm doing, I'm putting the topic in. I'm like, okay, so that's what they are giving on their end as well. That's the first thing. And so now you start preparing your responses and like anticipating what the next argument is going to be. Now it makes it a completely different game. Hell,
yeah,
we should have a tournament where you have to use GPT.
That would be crazy.
You know what I mean? It's like, and so like it's like you have no choice but to use GPT.
Synchronous online.
Yeah, like I think that'd be amazing. I would love.
Like your prep is done for you by a robot. Like
yeah. But you can like how you enter the search terms and what arguments you're going for is an art form.
It is.
Okay, so
no question about it.
Therein lies. There's so many things we can talk about with this, but therein lies one of the more fascinating pieces, and that was like a podcast I was listening to yesterday. It was actually Jared, just after we talked about this whole thing, saying there are companies now that and I need to find a link to it, that their focus is on teaching how to structure queries for AI bots like this, because they likened it to sorcery, right? Like
yeah,
the difference between magic and technology at a sophisticated enough level is like indistinguishable. So you can perform basically magic if you know the right incantations. Like if you can request the right thing.
Inspecto Patronum!
Right? Like you produce amazing stuff. But if you're giving really garbage queries and like you're just saying like, write my case for me, write better. Like it's not going to do a whole lot better. So like Jared was saying, like, you know, the way that you can structure with here's what we need for our criterion, put the definitions at the top, cite these kinds of things. You can teach it more and more. So that's one of the useful functions. Like we're becoming better.
Yeah.
Nobility. You're right. The performing of arguments can't be done, but we do have.
Funny you should say that.
Funny you should say that. So there is a program called Synthesia. And it does have a talking head that it can perform these. Now, it's still not at the best level. You can tell it's not quite human, but it does have
just like Jared's green hair. You could tell that something's going on.
Not quite human.
Yeah. So there is a basic level where you can put the performance in. Not only that, but if you want us to produce one of those videos for you, let us know. Like, tell us a topic, all right? Because I'm already starting to produce those, and I would love to do that. We're going to do full debates with robots, debating robots, and yeah.
The thing is, it looks good. It's not. I've seen things in the past where the mouth never really totally lines up. It looks like a bad dub. This is pretty much perfect. Like their mouth movements perfectly aligned.
I couldn't tell.
And they don't have ums. and they don't have verbal flubs. They don't have, miss words.
They never run to the police.
Yeah.
They don't snitch. So, yeah, like, it's kind of a perfect. You would want that speaker on your team. I'll put it that way. Now, granted, it's not like grand performance. So if you gave them a script for a POI, it's not there yet. It's not acting. It's not performing. But I would also contend that debate is no longer particularly performative. It's more, how fast can I get this out? Like, I think the students that win speaker
it's more mumble rap now.
No longer like eloquent orators. They're really damn smart and they're really damn fast. And those are the two qualities that we measure as a good speaker.
Now they're just cunning linguists.
I think I would love to have a policy tournament that just uses GPT, because like during prep time,
yeah, you know me.
Not prep time. All you do is you can get those queries in time, and by the time like you use up only a minute, then you got a full script that's completely tailored to exactly what they just said. And even the complex stuff, if you like, we put in like, hey, explain Afro-pessimism to me, and it came back with some really good explanations, you know what I mean, that was succinct and cited sources, and it was just amazing. And then you can and you can literally just say, refute this, and then it brings up refutation to it. That's all you need to do.
But so imagine though, if you gave even more specific refutation direction. So like, respond to this using this alternative framework theory. Like, right? Yeah. So the thing is, it's now, a wizard's duel. Like, you're just like, oh, well, I think that this theory could theoretically solve that better. You're not coming up with the ways that those two interact. The machine's coming up with the ways that those two interact. But you just can tweak a little bit. Also, like, assuming that all of this information that's generated is being piped right back into the AI. Okay, that's where I'm not saying that humans aren't important and they can't do better and it's not an art and there's a difference between a computation and an art. I get that, but the more art or whatever you want to call it gets pumped into this machine, I can't help but think that it would get progressively better and better and better and better and better. The nuances of debate argument. That's true. Yeah, that's still it will learn. It will learn.
The whole internet does not have a lot of that. I mean, our channel does. If you have questions,
one example. So like a straightforward example with it. At the top of each time when you say like write a speech that, almost every speech it pumps out starts out with "Ladies and gentlemen." You could give it the note to say,
"Excuse me,"
your speech with a gender binary forced language, and it would be like, all folks in attendance, and it would change, right? Like, so you have now taught it to give it more instruction than what its default intro is, and now it will do that forever better, which is kind of crazy. So that feedback side of it is what's nuts. So like as coaches, we're always giving our students feedback, and almost always you have to give that feedback lots of times. Stop swaying. Stop looking over, at non-audience members.
No, I will not.
The word don't use, whatever. So and you have to do that repetitively.
Stop using racial slurs and bringing up Hitler. All right, I'll try.
Yeah, and some of us, I guess, needed more feedback on that than others. But with this, all you just give is one time, do this or don't do this, and it forever changes in that way, which I think is kind of a cool mirror back, because whatever content is coming out, as coaches, we have to take some ownership for that as like, well, this is what we asked for. So it's similar to like how ballots are coming back and it's not what you're expecting. Like, well, you kind of have to take some ownership of that as a coach. If it's a student, like they may or may not have listened.
You can have AI judge
content,
right?
It's a chat content coming back. Like, this is exactly what you fed it, and this is what's coming out the other side, changing the way in which you ask for things and the direction you give as a coach. So a tool that we've been using that I would be remiss if we did not bring up, that is phenomenal for giving detailed feedback. Just like Jared was talking about before, one of the hardest things in coaching is just getting the fundamentals. Like, I need you to structure your arguments in this format with a thesis. Yeah. And that's really difficult to give over and over and over, where like this bot just kind of does it. Similarly, the things that every single speech teacher out there has to constantly give us feedback, like you're using too many verbal fillers, or you're going too fast, or your breaks were too long, or you're using non-inclusive language, whatever. We have a tool that, I guess we'll do this and then we'll talk about that tool.
So yeah,
Tim and his tool.
Yeah, I mean, if they start hooking up winners and losers to certain arguments, it starts directing it in different ways. I don't think, and so all we need to do is have something set up where Chat GPT now can actually like receive that type of feedback, like this one beat that one, according to this many people who watched it. You know what I mean? And so that would be absolutely dope. Like that, and I think that's how people need to start envisioning it. Where it's not so much about it's like, all right, you have to spit out as many words as possible sitting in front of a computer. It's like now you have to evaluate the words that are coming at you. Do you like them? Do they make sense? If not, then how do you modify it so it fits the voice that you are looking for? Like I'm thinking about how if I tell a student, I'm like, I need you to go and revise this in these 3 ways. Mm-hmm. They can come back within 5 minutes rather than 5 days, right? And so and then we talk about it. Do you like this? Why or why not? And it's way more about what you believe than what you're necessarily capable of. You know what I mean? It's like I think it's like if we approach this tool correctly, it could be really great. It could be like it could actually help unlock people's creativity.
Yeah. I agree.
They might be limited by language abilities, and this gives examples of how to use language, and now they can use those examples themselves, right? When they're out talking to people.
For like people like a demagogue, for instance, like if they wanted to craft, arguments to blast to the masses to create a fascist regime, for instance, they could use this technology, and it might be helpful for them.
Yeah, I could just see the prison writings of some mad person, it's like, but DebateSensei said I should do it this way. That Matt guy was telling me this. Like, oh man.
ChatGPT legal counsel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I concluding that thought that was just wrapped up there real quickly, because I would be remiss if we didn't mention how freaking cool it is.
It is very cool.
It's
an amazing tool.
The craft of speaking is rather than just the content of what is in the speech, how to deliver that speech. That's where AI comes in real handy as well on those repetitive things that every coach has to give feedback on. And you can receive that real time with Udily. So that's the tool that we've been using that's on our website. So if you go to verticommunications.com, you can play with it right now and record a speech and receive that feedback in real time with
you want to play with it.
How many verbal fillers you used and how fast you went and it was too loud, or if you use weak language.
How many racial slurs you used in your speech.
It will count those and tell you.
Yeah, it'll give you alternatives.
It really does.
Yeah. So I think AI has so many very powerful utilities in the debate world, and it will change it. I would dare to say more than Extemp has changed, more than the internet has changed Extemp, right? Like, it's a big tool that's coming in with even more capability.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the last things I want to talk about is an article I came across very recently. Oh, I so wish I remembered the publication, but I'm sure people can look it up.
Keeping consistent with our track record, not a single source will be provided tonight. Jared, tell them about the story.
The article, the title was that people like right-wing individuals think that ChatGPT is too woke.
Dude, they are going to be the biggest beneficiaries of this program. They are going to never have a dumb candidate again.
So the thing is that they're putting in prompts where they're kind of like, all right, give me arguments on why drag queens are evil.
I'm telling you, man. Yeah, they need to put more of that stuff in the internet, and then it will. You're right. I know what you're saying. If there's no source, then.
But ChatGPT.
They're like, build the wall.
Yeah, at the end of my story is that ChatGPT doesn't output that stuff. It like basically says there isn't that evidence that you say exists, and so they're like, well, I wanted it and you didn't give it to me, and so like they're all pissed off. So
interesting.
Yeah, I know. It's like I think we did that too. We were like kind of pushing the boundaries. We're like, hey, tell me a joke about this horrible thing. They're like, well, that's not really funny. Like there aren't very many jokes that are. Here's one.
Do you think those are like AI constraints, or do you think those were constraints put in by the creators? Because you have to take, at some level, like creator bias is into it, right?
Yeah, if I remember the article fairly, it said that it was a constraint that was built into it because they're the people that are developing it are very conscious about not causing harm.
Oh, we sure
so-
hope. My God, do we have a lot riding on that?
Yeah, and so
Please,
They
I hope
promise
do
they're
that.
not doing anything bad. So they're
I think sometimes the developers are the ones who have the best of intentions, and it's the like sort of entrepreneurs that come in later that want to push the boundaries and monetize it, and that's when things start taking
capitalism. K. Just a little icing on the cake of this episode.
Well, fortunately, it was only $1 billion that those creators made. So there's not like, there's big money pushing it around or anything. It was a measly little billion that's moving it along. So I really, really, really hope they had the best intentions and stick to that.
All right. Hey, everybody, that's our time. We got Matt, Tim, and Jared. All right. We're going to be talking about AI a lot more in the future. I know we are. And we're going to be using it a lot more in the future as well. So thank you all very much. We'll be back next week. We'll see you then, everyone. All right.
Take care.